Welcome to episode 349 of In Touch by iOS, the show that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, Vision Pro, Mac, and related technologies. I am your host, Dave Ginsburg, and we've got a couple guests back here this week. Holden Depardo's back on the show. Thanks for being here, Holden. How you doing?
Doing well. Thanks again for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure always having you here. Also here is Chuck Joyner. He pinched hit for us today. Appreciate your last minute jump into the show here. We always love having you. How you doing?
Oh, no problem, Dave. Happy to be here. It's always fun. It's always fun, and always fun to pinch hit because I never know exactly who I'm pinch hitting for.
Well, it's Mr. Gamet, but he might make a cameo appearance later. But we'll get to that when he does.
I can't possibly. I cannot possibly move up to Jeff Gamet's slot. So just
that's right. But last but certainly not least, Marty Jencius is here. Thanks always for being here, Marty. How you doing?
You know, the thing about pinch hitting, Chuck, is that the people have really low expectations, so you can live up to that.
Thank you, Marty. I feel so much better now.
I'm doing fine. Things are starting to slow down, even though this is spring break, and so I got some new machines and I'm doing some things around here with them. So
you got that Mac Studio coming. You got that MacBook Air coming.
Which color did you get of the MacBook Air?
The MacBook Studio, I settled for silver.
That's all you got.
Choice.
I got the sky blue.
Oh, you actually have it?
Yeah, I got them yesterday.
It seems like that's a really hard one to take pictures of. How is it in person?
It doesn't even look blue.
That's what I mean. Like in pictures, it just doesn't look.
For
that
folks
blue.
listening, Marty is showing us the sky blue MacBook Air, and it doesn't look at all like blue. It looks kind of silvery, actually.
Yeah. It's when I saw it, and I was purchasing it in the store, and I couldn't. They had it in a box, so I couldn't get a good look at it. And I looked across the store to what was the MacBook display, and from a distance and from an angle far away, I couldn't tell the difference as to whether it was blue or gray or silver.
That's what everybody was saying.
And so I walked up to it, and it is blue, and it's got this kind of iridescent silver to it, at least in the Mac store. But it's not overpowering, and it's not over blue. So it's pretty nice.
Yeah. I've got my MacBook Air M3 is the Starlight, and it's not overpowering. But it does have that tint in the Starlight versus the space gray or the space black. Even on the space black, I have a space black MacBook Pro for work, and it's got that tint black to it, but not as the people were saying, thinking space black should be really really dark black. No, that's why we talked about it last week with space gray is now been. It's rest in peace, space gray. So a little bonus thing there we weren't even going to talk about, but thanks for showing that to us, Marty. I'm glad to see that you've got your Macs, and we'll love to hear about it once you get set up, and we'll probably talk about that next week on that part of it.
All right.
But got plenty of things else to talk about here. Vision Pro, This Week in Mac, and beta, and all the other fun stuff. This week, let's first talk about Vision Pro. The Vision Pro. First off, 2.3.2 was released as a fix. So for those of you who are not on beta with your Vision Pro, it's a minor update to the operating system that came out in September. It's just a month after 2.3.1. It's supposed to fix some streaming playback fixes and other bug fixes. So if you are not running the beta, go ahead and make sure you get that up to date on Vision Pro. I think much else we can say about that. But Apple did seed Vision Pro 2.4, as well as we'll talk to you about the others in a minute here. And it is available for everybody this week, and it didn't really have much at all. And I've got even the link to the developers' notes, and there was nothing to talk about, right, Marty?
Yeah, 2.4.3, the beta, developer beta. I looked at the material that was on it that is in the link here, and it's really rather confusing to figure a lot of it out. So I used some magic, did some searching, and found some simple things that it was fixing. It fixed an Apple TV app. It now supports non-Latin characters in the search bar, better animation, reality kits. Yeah, Xcode. But an interesting thing about guest user mode, which I know you're excited about, is There's been some failure with it, and what they've determined is that people don't have the. It needs to, both devices need to be paired with the specific beta, the same specific beta. So when it fails, it's because those devices aren't the same. So,
okay.
Yeah, there's a few things in there, but nothing that is earth-shattering.
Yeah. And we'll definitely explore the guest mode, because that was my I thought my big pain point when I first got it, but you just really can't hand it off. I did say last week, I'll repeat it again, that I handed it off to my wife not just last week or the week before, and she was able to put it on without any issue. And I just told her how to navigate. So I wanted her to see some of the immersive videos, and she was able to do it without having to do any registration. And then I just put it back on afterwards. And other than it scanned my eyes, because of course it couldn't scan her eyes. So, it worked fine. Did you have anything you want to add there on this, Holden?
No, I haven't been using the betas, so I don't really have too much to say.
Okay. Yeah. Anything else you want to add there on this, Marty?
No. It's there's nothing, like I said, dramatically new with it that people would notice from performance standards.
And then lastly, one of the exciting announcements, and I know, Chuck, you are excited about this because you want to hear us tell you all about it, is Metallica is coming to the Vision Pro. And Metallica has an immersive concert experience. It's coming to the Vision Pro. They plan to release it. It's featuring Metallica, and it'll be with Apple retail stores offering a preview for customers who do not have a Vision Pro headset. So there you go, Chuck. You can actually go see it at the store.
Yeah, the trouble is I don't have a store, David.
That's right. It's kind of far.
Yeah.
So Metallica's concert experience was filmed in Mexico City during the second year finale of the band's M72 World Tour, which includes full performances of Three Rings, including Whiplash 1 and Enter Sandman. That's always the one that everybody wants to listen to, at least the popular ones. Apple says that the experience provides unprecedented access to Metallica members, as well as views as close as the Snake Pit. So this could be game changing, because I know we talked about it a number of weeks ago that U2 is also going to have an immersive video coming very soon, which makes sense since they were at in Vegas at the Sphere, which I got to experience, which was absolutely amazing. So I'm going to start with Chuck. What are your thoughts on a Metallica video on Vision Pro?
The song choice is interesting. Enter Sandman, of course, is obvious. One, I guess, is a little bit of a little more of if there is a slow song from Metallica. Whiplash should be the one that should be a whole lot of fun. But if you've never seen Metallica live in concert, they do a really great show, not just sonically, but also with the visuals.
Yeah. So
I think this is going to be, I hope it's half as good as I imagine it will be. The unprecedented access to the band, okay, that's fine if they're doing interviews. I can't get really excited about that because I'm really looking for the concert experience. Yeah. And when I do get somewhere close to an Apple store, you better believe I'll be trying to see this.
Absolutely. There is a trailer that you can see right now that's out on Apple's website. I'll make sure I have a link in the show notes for that too. So, but yeah, go check that out as well. Do you have any thoughts on this, Holden?
I'm not a big Metallica person, but I will say I'm surprised that U2 doesn't already have one of these, because they used to be synonymous with Apple. Well, I guess maybe that was more of a Steve Jobs thing more than anything, but I don't know. I'm surprised U2 doesn't have one yet.
No, it was in the works. This movie, I only think is going to be about 25 minutes. I believe the U2 movie is going to be much longer.
Yeah.
No, Apple's still fully engaged with Apple. I mean, I'm sorry. U2 is fully engaged with Apple. Mm-hmm. They did an interview during the tour in Vegas at Sphere, and they showed the behind the scenes of the technology. There's a video out there that you can watch.
Okay.
It was pretty cool to see the back of the behind the scenes of what the Sphere was, because I got to experience most of it, but unfortunately where I was sitting, I was under the upper level, but I still had an amazing straight on view. I wanted to go down the seats and start to look up, but I got to at least see most of what I'm still got a great experience. So it was pretty amazing. Marty, what do you think?
Well, I really am curious about how long it's going to be. I anticipate that the YouTube video, when it comes out, or the movie, will be longer, just based on what the lead up is for it. I'm sort of more of Frank Zappa, Talking Heads, B-52s sort of guy. So Metallica's out of my comfort zone, but I am going in there with ready to go. And because Chuck wants to know how it is, so I'm going to go in there. The length would help me because it would tell me when I should time everything to peak for me to enjoy the show. I'm looking forward to it. I hope they do more things like this. I agree with Chuck. Interviews are you don't need them in spatial, but concerts would be very cool in spatial. So
Marty, just think of the whole thing as a peak. That.
Okay. When you go to the store and do that demo, tell me, because I want to come over and watch you play air guitar in the middle of the store. Man, I will shoot spatial video of that.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So something to look forward to on Vision Pro, and it continues to evolve. I look forward to every week to finding something surprising with it, and we'll continue to see that. So let's go ahead and move on. We'll go on first. I'll talk about some pretty important updates you got to run this week. Apple did release an update to all OSs, iOS 18.3.2, Mac OS Sequoia 15.3.2. Includes some pretty serious security fixes. Apple was aware of there was a bit of a report that the vulnerability was being exploited, and this is going back to like 17.2 in iOS. So because the vulnerability has been in the wild, it is a really good idea to go ahead and update this right away. This is for both iPad OS, iOS, and Mac OS that have updates for these vulnerabilities. So if you're not running beta, make sure that you get that up to date right away. Meanwhile, there was a problem with the iPhone 16e. It has a Bluetooth audio problem with 18.3.2. There have been a lot of complaints out there that's saying in Apple communities as well as Reddit and X, the 16e is the Bluetooth speaker periodically stutters and cuts out. It's unclear what's how widespread it is or if it's a big problem. So it leads to it being the 18.3.2 update that was released this earlier this week, and it's unclear whether it will be resolved in 18.4, which is currently in beta, which is not going to be released till April. So who knows? Maybe they'll have a special update for 16e. I'm going to talk about 16e here in a little bit because I have one to talk about in a little bit here. So Marty has one too, so I'll give you a little bit of more insights on that. But any thoughts on this at all? I mean, this is a typical thing. What Apple discusses, doesn't even address it until it finally becomes a big, huge deal. How about you, Holden?
To be honest, I haven't done much with Bluetooth speakers with it to notice if there was a problem. That's just not part of.
We wouldn't even notice it because you wouldn't notice because we're on beta. So
yeah.
But those of you who have the 16e, just be aware of that issue. And from there, Apple did release 18.3.1 for tvOS. That's out. That's the current version. This is for the third generation Apple TV 4K. And just go ahead and go run that update. That's got some updates with some security issues, and it does address some of the issues of a prevent playback of streaming content on the third generation, the Apple TV 4K. So go and update that too. And with that, we go to beta. 18.4 beta 3 is out, and that was released to both developers and for in the public beta. Marty, have you seen anything that's standing out here with this latest release for beta 3?
No, the one thing that they say has happened is in Image Playground, that there are different things that you can do in Image Playground with it. And it's like, that's the one app that I've already been scared off of in terms of using. So,
right.
I haven't gone there to see the new stuff, but I think I remember some splash screen talking about what's new with this particular piece.
Yeah. So, it also has Apple Intelligence feature that shows you the most important notifications first. And then added a new sketch style. That was a sketch style for the image playground, as well as Apple News Plus now has a food section that we've been talking about. That's some of the things we talked about the last couple weeks. Are you running beta, Holden, at all?
No, I'm not. I was going to for like App Intense and some of those. I wanted to test those out, but the food feature does intrigue me, but I didn't find enough of the features intrigued me to jump into the beta. So I want to keep it away from beta for now.
I don't blame you. Chuck Iron, he always avoids beta, so I'm not even going to ask.
It's just listen. I appreciate all the effort you guys put into all these things that are not ready for prime time. So thank you, because you're helping me.
With the News Plus, I've had some issues with that app. One is I don't find it to be searchable. So if I see something earlier in the day, I don't know how to, and I don't bookmark it. I can't go back and get it. That's one thing. Mm-hmm. But I think Apple's trying to feel more like the New York Times with large sections in certain areas. And when you go to the food section, the food apps, you notice what they're coming from, what their sources are, and they're all magazines that they have in their magazines. So they're tying in the content from the magazines directly into the News Plus, and it's pretty good. I mean, pretty good recipes.
Nice. So yep, that's what you got with beta for that. We'll move on to Mac. Mac did release Sequoia 15.3.2, as I mentioned earlier. Just bug fixes. Make sure you go out and install that and make sure that's up to date. I've got all mine done. So, other interesting thing here with the Mac Studio. It still lacks the high power mode offered on some MacBook Pro and Mac Mini models. Ars Technica actually published this review of the Mac Studio, and they had said that they confirmed that the Mac Studio with the M4 Max chip lacks high power mode for intensive workloads. He also tested the higher end Mac Studio with the M3 Ultra chip, and he did not mention anything about it in that model either. So both are running Sequoia 15.3, and the Geekbench database is currently in beta testing, so they're still testing it. So it's going to be interesting to see where you go. I wonder you'll see this on the Mac Studio when you get yours fired up there, Marty.
Well, it's sitting right to the left of me. Everything's plugged in, and I got it done before the show. Have not turned it on yet. So I plan to turn it on and get my email really fast.
Marty, why don't you hit the power switch right now so we can watch your lights dim as it boots up?
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to hear the chime.
I'm only allowed to turn it on after midnight here in town. Otherwise, the whole town goes dark. So, yeah, it's sitting over here. I can turn it on, but let's go on to the show.
Yes. Moving off of Mac, I found this article interesting. The 10 best hidden AirTag features. AirTags, we're a lot of rumor right now. They're anticipating there's going to be an AirTags 2 that's going to be released sometime this year to replace this, because they're pretty up long in the tooth. They've been out for at least close to 3 years now, probably. So a couple of things that stood out here I thought that was kind of cool as far as any hidden features that you weren't available. One of them was being able to rename your AirTags, which I think is cool, because then I can rename it to what it specifically is being used to, in case my car keys or my work keys or that kind of thing, or your name on it, or however you want to name it. You now can go in and under the items AirTag and rename them. You can use a Siri to locate your AirTags as well now. You go into that and be able to say, find my luggage or whatever you named it, and it does it through the voice control too. You can share the AirTag's location with a loved one, so I'll do that. AirTag, share AirTag, and then add a person. You put the AirTags in lost mode, so you'd be able to put that so if it's lost. So and then you can also find the owner of the lost AirTags. Other things they've added included turning off and left behind notifications for your home, as well as checking the AirTag's battery level. It drives me nuts every year. I got to change that battery. That's one of the things with the AirTag. At least I find is to get that sucker open to get the darn battery out to replace it every year. I don't know. My fingers are just getting too nimble here. I can't get them. You guys have problems opening that? Have you ever changed the battery on the AirTag?
I usually just palm and then twist to get it going.
Yeah. I think that's what I have to do. I think I have one coming up here. It's complaining. So, any thoughts on these? Have you used any of these features, Chuck?
I haven't used them. I was aware of about 75% of them, but there were a couple in there. Now, don't ask me what they are without looking.
That's okay.
These. I love these kind of articles because usually there are one or two things that you think you know everything, and then maybe you missed an update or it just was a feature that didn't interest you, but at the time, it makes you aware of all the capabilities that these devices have. So I too read this. Actually, I read this article at dinner and thought, I may have known that, but I think I may have forgotten it too. So
yeah, I kind of did too.
Yeah.
I renamed them.
Oh, go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, I rename my AirTags as often as I rename my children. I'm constantly taking them off of bags and going, I'm not going to take that bag. Let me put it on this bag. And then when I actually go to find the bag in my AirTag, it's not the bag that I have, but it's the empty one that I left in my closet. So I quickly learned to rename them to add in whatever piece of luggage or bag that I have them on. So,
okay.
So you rename your children very often.
Yeah, I do, and I put AirTags on them. So
that's too funny. So that's definitely interesting to see what happens here. So, the article in here we put in here. You need your update. When this was put in on the 13th, which is actually today as we record this. And I don't know if someone put this in here or not, but
I did, Dave. Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you, if you found it, I got thrown off here. Go ahead, tell us what you found here.
Yeah, well, I figured this should go in here because if anybody's listening live, you want to pay attention to this. But there's something I didn't quite memorize the whole article, but if you have Firefox and you use it at all, open it on your Mac and let it update itself, and then you can close it again. But there's something that happens tomorrow that apparently a certificate expires and opens you to potential bad things. Identity theft, breaches, those kind of things. And I did it as soon as I got home from dinner. I opened it up and it took about 10 seconds and it said Firefox has been updated. Okay, great. So it's not a big deal. And it does not apply to iOS either. It's just the Mac.
Yeah.
But it's so timely. I can't, in some ways, I can't believe that we didn't hear about this until today, since today's Thursday.
I didn't even hear about it. But I'm running the latest version, which is 136.0.1. So, so just make sure you keep Firefox up to date because they're constantly updating it. I'm a big user of Firefox. I enjoy the browser, and I use it most of the time. But I mean, I use Edge. I use Edge at work only because I live in the Microsoft 365 world. So I find Edge to be better for that. But Edge is a good browser too. With Chrome, I'm trying to just kind of abandon Chrome, and I haven't really used Safari much lately. I should. I know Apple has Apple's browser is pretty good, but I just got so used to Firefox, I decided to stick with it. I mean, it syncs my bookmarks and syncs my settings and, all that stuff and the cloud. And
I've had great luck with Firefox. And so, but I use it for some specific purposes. And so therefore I don't always open it. And when I saw this, it's like, okay, I don't know exactly how far the exploit could go, whether it would just be in Firefox or whether it would theoretically you could have a problem with your Mac, but listen, just open it 10 or 15 seconds and you're covered.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody want to add on that? Do you guys use Firefox at all?
I don't, but just always do updates. Always do updates. I don't understand when people hold updates forever and then just do it. You're going to have to do it eventually anyways. Just get it over with.
Yeah, I just opened it and tried to look for something to push to do the update and did a search in its settings, and it's there was a link in there to close it and force an update. So I close it, force an update, and it just came back up and it says your Firefox has been updated. So
good. So I want to talk a little bit about the 16E. I've got one here that's I think it's a pretty nice phone, to be honest. I've been playing with it for over a week now, and it does seem to have some pretty good features. I'm actually the form factor is not bad. It's a pretty good size device. It's got one lens for camera, which is fine, but it does have Apple Intelligence, if that's anything to brag about. The way things, we'll be talking about that in a bit here, but overall, it's not a bad little phone. I mean, for someone who'd want to get in entry level and starting that price point of $599, and Marty, you made the comment because of the size that you like having. You'd want to use that as a kind of a phone when you're traveling, right?
yeah, I was up in Cleveland today and I wound up taking both phones just because I don't know why I took both phones to get bad news twice, I guess. But relied completely on my 16E. Like it,
Nice.
noticeable weight difference if you have Pro Max and you have a 16E. It's like,
Pro
how
Max
did I
to
carry this thing around? And I like that we don't have the camera bump in it because that seems like it hangs up on everything that you
see.
It's the best looking rear on an iPhone. It just is.
Yeah, it's very clean.
Exactly.
If you look at it.
Yeah.
And it only comes in two colors. This is the black, and then there's the white. So I went that. That's the black. So, so yeah, it's and then the other thing it has is that modem, the new modem that Apple has made. It's the C1. I haven't. I probably could explore this a little further, and to see where that goes. I believe this is the first of many in the future that they're probably going to be going with this. It's its own in-house modem, so trying to get away from they got away from Intel, so why not get away from Qualcomm? So it'd be interesting to see where Apple goes with that. Storage wise, it goes with the 128 and 256. This is 128. That was plenty, and now they're offering 512 for this as well, which was sorely needed, especially the SE never had anything bigger than 256. So, but not much else difference as far as that goes. It's got the enough horsepower to do Apple Intelligence, but overall, I think it's a good little phone. If somebody is in the market to get a iPhone that's going to be just a good daily driver and don't really care much about all the bells and whistles that the 16 and the 16 Pro have. I mean, you don't have the camera control button, but you do have the action control button. They did add that, so at least you can do that. But yeah, I think overall, not a bad phone for anybody looking in the market.
How do you guys feel about? I get why there's a lot of missing features. I get it, makes total sense. But the lack of MagSafe is the one that surprised me the most. How do you guys feel about that? Because you guys are like Apple ecosystem guys. Like you aren't just. It's not like just a phone and that's the only piece of technology you have and whatever.
Yeah, he got the case.
I got the case with the ring on it, and it snaps right on. I don't have a.
Okay.
You got to have the ring.
Yeah. Well, this is built into the case, at least the one that I got.
Into the case.
And,
that's the official Apple case?
No. The official Apple case is just as a silicone case with nothing in it.
No, okay, interesting. Okay. I didn't know that.
I've avoided Apple cases. They're just, I've always had bad experience with them. They're just always wear out.
The article that you posted had a lot of good things to say about battery life. There's
battery life. I forgot about that.
Yeah, larger battery because you don't have 3 cameras sitting in there clogging up one end. And the other thing, they were pretty complimentary about the C1 modem. They had some good things to say about. They said its architecture is really quite genius of Apple. So it's cool.
Yeah, Apple own processors, own modem chips. They're just keep going on making their own stuff and becoming sustainable with not having to depend on another vendor. Who knows? They might be making screens next. You never know.
That's going to be awesome. I'm very excited about that.
If that happens, it's hard. It would be surprising. Go ahead.
Dave, Marty, I'm curious. Obviously, you're you feel like you could do the compromise with the feature things, but the camera always is such a big thing. It's what Apple has marketed so much because people like it so much, and and I feel like, at any given moment, if something happens in front of me that I want to capture, I want the best camera that I can have with me. That's convenient. I'm not going to tote around a DSLR all day. So was that a point of importance for you guys as you thought about making this phone a daily carry?
Um, again, I got it because I got a deal, but the fact of the matter is, yeah, I could see someone using this iPhone as a daily driver for photos. I mean, it's got a great camera. I mean, we're all, most of us are spoiled. We've been using the Pro Maxes for quite some time, and then the lenses every year have just vastly improved. I mean, the 16 Pro Max has absolutely amazing camera. I mean, if I'm out all the time, I want to make sure I have that bad boy with me all the time when I'm taking pictures, for sure. So, I mean, just for work and for play and being able to get what I need and having good quality photos is just such a must. But I can't see, for us, the folks that are not in the ecosystem, I could see them be pretty happy with this iPhone for sure.
Yeah, I think that any of the challengers will talk about that the camera's not as good as their camera. I live in what is beginning the Great Plains, so spatial photography. There's not a lot of dimensionality for me to shoot in terms of spatial photography, so I find it hard pressed to go, ooh, I want a really good picture of this. Most of the pictures I take are pictures of stuff I don't want to forget, like the serial number of this or that. So this camera does the functionality that I need. I'm not a big picture taker. Doing vision profiles, I'm interested in the spatial photography, but that's not my driver. So the photography was low on my list, but I know it's a good camera, and for the purposes that I use it for, it'll be functional. So
yeah, yep. So, all right, that's the 16E. Let's talk. I wanted to go back and talk a little bit about a follow-up, talking about the fact of the matter of being able to merge Apple accounts. We had quite a discussion this a few weeks ago. Apple about 15 days ago released a tool, allegedly, that allows you to migrate your purchases from one Apple account to another. Sounds simple, right? Well, the primary requirement is that you must be logged into both Apple accounts on the same iPhone or iPad. Well, the only problem is there's also a secondary quandary that you'll have to deal with, and he gets more words here that that also has to have as well. Whereas there was so many requirements that you had to go through that it just became, do I really want to do this? So, and I found this out the hard way that this is going back years ago. I mean, when we all had two Apple accounts, and one was for purchases, one was for your backup and your iCloud, because we wanted to keep things separate. And look, it's biting most of us here. And I have a Mac.com account. I don't want to lose that. So I moved it over the hard way. I just keep both accounts live, and whatever purchases I have on my other Apple ID, which is a Gmail account, I use that. And then now going forward, I'm just doing all the new apps onto the Mac.com account. Especially the fact that I have a license for Final Cut Pro on my other Gmail account. I'm not going to be paying for that again. So thank you very much. So Apple does make it somewhat easy that you can sign into the secondary account on a Mac and be able to just install the app and be able to be on your merry way. I would like to get this done, but I just don't. After this article, I'm at a point now where I just don't think I want to even bother anymore. There really hasn't been any discussion about it since, and it's a shame because I think a lot of people want to do this, but Apple just still hasn't. As smart as they are and all the innovations they have, they can't figure out a simple thing like this. It's obviously an issue. Anybody have any thoughts on this? How about Holden?
I've wanted to do this for a long time too. And when I heard about it, I just kind of thought immediately, like, let me just wait and just let some people mess up their Apple accounts before I mess up my Apple
Oh no, I
account.
didn't
I
even
don't want to.
bother. I tried it. It tried it. It warned you that you can't do it because the other account had be signed in, or the purchases were. I mean, it was just some convoluted thing. I gave up. I
Yeah.
even went on and talked to. I went on to Apple Support, and then there were no help.
One of the stipulations I saw was that you can't have, or well, let me see if I can find it. There's like a specific set of requirements. And there's one where I'm like, I'm
Right.
pretty sure this is a reference to family sharing, but it doesn't actually say
Right.
family sharing. So I don't actually know. It was,
Right.
you can't migrate purchases if you've set up your Apple, nope, not, oh yeah, your Apple One subscription to provide iCloud storage to a third different account. That sounds like they're referring to family sharing.
Yeah.
But it
Because
doesn't
I had
explicitly
that.
say family sharing. So I just saw that right before the podcast. I'm like, that would be a huge bummer if I
Yeah.
can't do it. Because I'm looking at the rest and I'm like, well, I'm definitely not a child.
Yeah.
You know, so I should be
Yeah.
fine with some of these other ones. But it's like I don't know. This is something
Yeah.
that
I
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
go ahead.
No,
Go
that's
ahead.
it. Yeah.
So yeah, I have the Apple One bundle, and I think that's the one that's the big part of this is what's causing the problem, because I moved everything over, including my Apple One bundle, over to my Mac.com account. I had it on my Gmail account, and decided before this came out, I decided just to do it I'll just stop buying anything on the Gmail account and just live with it.
Mm-hmm.
So now, after I did that, I'm sure that made it even worse, and I'm not going to ever be able to do this. So I'm fine with it. I'll just for the remainder of my Apple life, I will just have to use the apps I purchased on the Gmail account, and move everything over. Because that's what I did. I just started downloading all the apps. Once it came up, I would sign out of it. I generally stay signed out of the app because even when I'm signed out and I have to do an update for Final Cut Pro, it tends to let you do it anyway. So
Yeah, it does.
If I have to
Yeah.
sign in, I do it. So
I have like an iCloud account basically, and then an iTunes account. So this probably wouldn't be too tricky for me if I really wanted to go through it. But
yeah.
At the end of the day, like I've just gotten used to when I set up a new device, I just type in a password twice. And when I'm setting up a device, I'm typing in so many passwords anyway that does it really matter? And Apple setup process does a good job of saying, hey, you have two. Okay, cool. We'll help you out with that. So I don't think that it's really necessary, but it's at least nice there is an option for someone who meets those very, strict requirements.
Yeah. Chuck, were you in this world? You have two accounts like I did?
Yeah, I do. I do. And I have not tried to put this together based on, again, some of you kind people who jump on this stuff the day of and, report back and say, oh my God, this is worse than having a tooth pulled. So
I gave up.
So, it's one of those things, but Dave, you said it really well. It's not being talked about. And so does that mean that it worked for a lot of people, or did it mean that it didn't work for a lot of people and they just gave up? If it's the latter, and if it's the latter, I'm kind of shocked given how happy the tech press is to beat on Apple for anything they perceive as even the smallest failure. So, I'd love to hear from people as to
me too
whether maybe look I read over it, and for my money, it looked like they did a pretty good job of outlining all the limitations.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of them.
A support article.
Yeah. There were a lot of them. So, maybe there were some that disqualified a lot of people, and that's why they couldn't do it. But I one of these days I'll get around to trying it. It just hasn't been high on my priority list.
And I probably leave it there. my experience, especially you have a bundle. I'm assuming you have the Apple One bundle of some sort.
No.
Or you did not do. You opted not to do that.
No, I again, you do the math, and for the services I use and the way I use them, it just kind of didn't make economic sense.
Okay.
It was not a big deal dollar wise, and if they had something that I want, I would not hesitate to. But there was just no strong motivation to do it, so I haven't gotten around to that either.
Gotcha. Marty, any thoughts on this?
I've got two accounts. It plagues me every time I set up a new computer, and I set up a new computer a lot. And but it's sort of like, okay, now which
two
one
new
am
computers now?
Yeah. Which one am I? What are they asking for me here? Are they asking for this account or this account? And I have to figure that out. And half the time I screw it up. This came out as like, oh, we're going to have this fun thing that you can do, and it'll be nice and easy. And then the next, and they put a a statement out about it. And then like the next day or the day after, they said, oh, we got a new statement. Here are all the exceptions to the rules of how you can do that. And I think it took people back. When I read through it, I don't know if you remember the old Saturday Night Live sketch, Happy Fun Ball. It's a toy. It's sold like a high pitched toy, and it has things like pregnant women, the elderly, and children under 10 should avoid prolonged exposure to Happy Fun Ball. Happy Fun Ball contains a liquid core which, if exposed due to rupture, should not be touched, inhaled, or looked at. The exceptions to that read like a Saturday Night Live sketch to me. So I'm not going anywhere near it. Yeah. I got 2 places I got to go. That's going to be that way forever, I guess.
Yeah. So, it is what it is. We'll just kind of live with it and then move on. So, other thing I want to talk about here is about the new one password feature that can display codes and logins based on your user's location. Everybody here uses 1Password, I believe. I don't know about you, Holden. Do you?
I do. I love 1Password. Yeah.
Me too. So, they announced this week that they have a new feature allowing users to assign specific locations to items stored in their vaults. So when they appear in the 1Password mobile app, and then where the user is near one of those physical locations, the feature can be used for logins, passwords, alarm codes, and pins, and more. So example is you can have your work-related passwords to show in the list first. So when you're at work, you can have the rewards number when you need a merchant or with a customer reports program and such. So I think this is a pretty ingenious thing to do here. And I know people were kind of questionable, is this secure? I can't imagine something what 1Password does. Agile Bits is a really great company, and they've been running this app for a long time. Now that it's pretty much a universal platform everywhere, you can use it. So, what do you think about this, Holden? What's your thoughts with having this like this?
This is a great idea. One of the reasons I use 1Password is because I have a work PC and I would like to save some of my work passwords and all that stuff there. It just makes things easier. So being able to say like, these are passwords I use at this location is actually something that I definitely will be doing. That's a great idea. One of those things, never would have thought of that, but great idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How about you, Chuck? What do you think on this?
Yeah, I'm with Holden. I feel like this is one of those things that Apple is going to use that 1Password is going to use to differentiate itself, not just from other password managers, but also from Apple's built-in passwords app. That's been sort of the way we've seen companies and developers be successful when the perception is that Apple has Sherlocked them, that they, they don't just wither up and die. They combat it with more features, different features, and just useful features, not just fluff features. And so, I feel like right now, I see no reason to shift from 1Password because first of all, I've learned how to use it. It's integrated into all my browsers and everything. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's great. And now this is one more way that in those situations where I do have to go and look up a password, it becomes even more convenient.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. How about you, Marty?
I have been paying for 1Password for years. Haven't used it as much as I think other people on this panel. I've kind of drifted away from it when I was opening up web pages and got 3 or 4 different options to integrate passwords in. It's probably because I was running too many password managers. But I'm afraid to not pay for it because I've got some stuff in there that I would like to have from a legacy standpoint. I don't. For me, my work is 3 minutes away from my home, and so I work at home and I go to work and I work there. So it's hard for me to say these are the passwords I want there when I'm here because so location doesn't seem to be an advantage for me. It's just then another thing that I have to think about and how to sort these into different locations. So I will have to dive into it and play with it and see if I can see if I can be romanced by 1Password again.
Yeah. Okay. Next topic here. This was interesting. I found here. This was from our friend Adam Angst at Tidbits. How to identify iPhone apps that may contain location tracking ads. You may know earlier this year, 404 Media had published an article about location tracking industry and how serendipitous is, and it gathers and resells the location data for and he's talked about this in the past, and highlight another reason why allowing private companies to collect such information is concerning, especially the major players that were hacked, including Gravy Analytics and many others. Despite the FTC later prohibiting both these companies from collecting any more data, they're doing it anyway. So uh, even when you browse through a list of over 12,000 apps, many of which are on Android, surprise, feeling overwhelmed, it alone manually compares to the apps on your iPhone on the master list. But fortunately, there is an automated way to determine whether the apps on our iPhones are involved and whether you don't know that or not. It does involve using Apple Configurator from the Mac App Store. So you would have to connect your iPhone to your Mac with a USB cable, and then it then would prompt you to allow the iPhone to connect and then to install a driver update. Then you open the Apple Configurator and select your iPhone, and then choose under Action and Export and Info, and then Device Information, and then you can look at installed apps. The configurator will actually show whatever information it's showing in here, which is interesting. I think this is probably a little geeky for most people to do this kind of thing if you really wanted to find this out, but I like the fact that you can find out about it if you so choose. And I thought that he brought this to our attention, I thought it was a good idea. What do you think on this, Chuck?
I don't know, Dave. I think we all need to be aware of the location things. I guess I just don't have strong feelings about the location aspects of things. So
I don't either, really.
Is this I look, I get it if somebody's tracking me, and so that's a problem. I probably don't fit the demographic for the tracking concerns. There are times I'd rather not reveal my location, but yeah, this is one of those that just doesn't really affect my way of thinking or my lifestyle. So I'm a little hesitant to comment on it, other than just the general privacy aspect that, if in doubt, sharing less is better.
Agreed. Marty, your thoughts?
I agree. It looks a little geeky. I'm wondering, hey, iMazing, are you looking for something to add to your tool? This could be something that they could, because you're hooking your phone up in order to get to it anyways. I avoid putting in location information, because sometimes it's like, why does this thing need my location information? Now, if it's a tracking thing or a maps app or something like that, yeah, that's helpful. But so many apps ask for location, I really just don't understand why. So I'd be curious to see this, but I'm afraid if I set it up and tried to do it, it would be kind of beyond my strength to do it. So let's see if the third party comes in and adopts something that's functional like this,
or even iMazing for that matter.
Yeah, that's
anything you want to add, Holden?
No, I agree. Like, it's interesting, but I'm not going to go through all this just to find it out, especially when I assume that so many of these sites are looking at my location anyway. I know I can do my due diligence and disable location services, but I kind of feel like that only goes so far, because there's still ways that these companies can work behind the scenes to work with other companies and partner with different data sets that they have. Your carrier will have your location, even if you turn location services off. So like, this information's out there anyway, and they'll make money. They'll behind the scenes sell your data to someone else. Like, it's out there anyway.
Yeah. All right, let me move to a couple news stories here before we get close to wrapping up. I wanted to talk about a few things here. Pocket Casts, one of my favorite podcast aggregators. I pay for it. I think it's really worth supporting the developer, and they have a pretty amazing app that allows not only audio but video for aggregating your podcasts. And now they've opened up their web player to everyone. You don't have to have an account to listen, and you can listen to the podcast and try it out. You can download a Mac or Windows desktop version if you sign in, and then of course you'll be able to have your favorites, but won't have as the features of what it does with the paid version. But I think this is a great app, and then being able to try it out. It's one of the standard aggregators. You have Pocket Casts and Overcast, and of course Apple Podcasts, and there's so many others. I think this is a great, cool thing. Anybody here use Pocket Casts besides me?
I don't.
Yeah, I do.
And what do you think about this?
I think it's pretty cool because I spend more time in front of my desk with my desktop than I do necessarily with my my mobile device. So to be able to do and manage podcasts through Pocket Casts on the web, sounds pretty cool. And I think it's going to entice people once they use it on the web to look at investing in the app. I think it's an annual cost of $39.99 for the plus version of it.
That's what I just renewed it. Yep, I think it's worth it. So, what's your podcaster aggregator of choice, Chuck?
Overcast. Overcast for one really big reason that Marco has done an amazing job of making podcasts faster to listen to if you train. So you can cut the silences out between words, and this is all programmatically done. So you just throw a switch and it does it. That and the algorithms he uses to speed things up are more listenable, at least for my ears, than anybody else's. And I like to listen to things at higher speeds because you can get through more. And I have a bad habit of subscribing to a lot of podcasts. So
me both.
Yeah. So, the more that I can condense them down and look, I don't want to turn them into something that just, I can't understand and just play them to say I played them. I want to be able to hear them and follow the conversation. So there's one other thing too. There's one other thing I should mention about Overcast. If you have an audio track or an audio book or something like that you own, you can upload it to Overcast and have those same algorithms applied. And it makes a huge difference. Audible has some higher speed playbacks. It just, in my opinion, it's not as good as the algorithms Marco has developed or is using. So those are my killer features for Overcast, and why it'll be a long time before I move away from it.
Great, that's awesome.
Welcome.
Well, look at this. We got the pleasure of having Jeff Gamet join us right near the end of the show, and I'm always happy to welcome him anytime to be here. How you doing, Jeff? Thanks for being here.
I'm actually catching my breath right now. I have literally been in this space for about 3 minutes, which is how long it takes
thank you.
to get my computer set up and everything plugged back in and connected. So
thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for having me. You can find me online at
we got a couple stories for you still here. So next story I want to talk about here real quick is about T-Mobile. This is actually affecting me. T-Mobile is raising their prices, and here's who's affected. They have announced a new round of price increases that's supposed to go into effect next month. This time around, the company's raising prices as much as $5 a line for subscribers on many of its legacy plans, which I'm on. The carrier says this is a continuation of a price hike that it began rolling out last year, and that customers with the price lock are not impacted. Of course, I apparently didn't have a price lock. As usual, T-Mobile is being incredibly cagey about the exact details of who's impacted. Well, I'm on the Magenta plan. That's an old legacy plan. There was also the Magenta Max and T-Mobile One. Those are all affected by this as far as Reddit goes. So it is what it is. I mean, I'm going to ask them because I was looking and comparing to their no Go. I think it's Go 5G plans now, and I hate switching because I had such a great deal because I got 6 lines on my family plan. So, but this is not surprising. I mean, I still like T-Mobile. I think I've had a really good experience with them. So I'm not complaining too much. Jeff, you're here. What do you think about this?
Isn't T-Mobile the company that said they weren't going to raise your rates?
Yeah, it is.
No new taxes.
No new taxes. Right? Yeah, exactly.
Read my
list.
Yeah, exactly.
This seems like a really great way to make sure that all your customers are happy and avoid that whole problem with customer churn that cell service providers are always trying to reduce.
Yep.
Wait, it's the other thing.
Yeah, that other thing. Any other thoughts, Chuck?
It's inevitable.
It is. I mean, AT&T is going to do it. Verizon's going to do it. I mean,
at some point, I think sometimes we're the suckers because we actually buy into the fact when they make these promises, and they just there's no way that they can predict what's going to happen next year or 5 years from now when they make these promises, and yet they make them, and we say, "Oh boy, I'm in with that," and so
I think
Marty?
all the companies are being driven by the price of eggs. So it costs more.
There you go.
They
good one.
need their eggs. And Dave, I know you speak so glowingly about T-Mobile all the time. It's like Dave should be a spokesperson
do.
And so it's easy to kick a man when he's down. So let's all kick him hard.
Well, they're offering me another free line, so I might go take it just out of spite of it.
Wait, hold on.
So
they have to raise everyone's rates because they're not making money, but they'll throw in free lines to keep you there.
I've got 2 right now. I got to throw one right now.
There's a disconnect with the logic somewhere in this process.
I agree with that.
No,
I do agree with that.
No, there's not, Jeff. It's because it doesn't cost them anything to give you a line.
Yeah.
So Jeff, it's only for the new suckers, not the old ones.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. And I saved this last story for last just because I knew Jeff was coming and I thought this would be a great topic to wrap the show up with. And John Gruber, we always thought has been the big Apple fanboy of all these years during Fireball, has shared some pretty strong worded comments about Apple's delayed personalized Siri features and again, he's always been the well-known pundit. He's always talked to all the folks at Apple all the time. So in a blog post, it's called "Something is Rotten in the State of Cupertino." Gruber says that Apple's credibility has been damaged by the delay. Keynote by keynote, product by product, feature by feature, year after year, Apple went from a company that you couldn't believe would even remain solvent to by far the most credible company in tech. But Apple remains at no risk of financial bankruptcy, and the fact that it is the most profitable company in the world, but their credibility is damaged. Careers will end before Apple might even return to the level of, they say, when it comes to believing the credibility of the company and earning the start in June of 2024. So basically what he's talking about in a nutshell here is the fiasco that's taking place with the announcement that they still are delayed with the features for Siri and Apple Intelligence. Apple says it was going to be ready by this time. 18.4 is in beta testing right now. It still isn't ready for prime time yet. And honestly, I think Tim Cook should address this at some point because, John Gruber has been quite the vocal supporter of Apple. I mean, he's every WWDC he always has his talk show and talks to Craig Federighi and Jaws and has them on the show every year, and then they go through stuff and I always thought that they were a good thing here, but he kind of has a good point. I mean, why is it taking so long? Maybe Apple should not have said, okay, we're going to have Apple Intelligence ready to go. I mean, we know that they're a perfectionist, but why are they going to say things that they can't meet? We're at now the 4th variation of iOS 18. Why can't it be doing here? So, like I said, I saved this for last for you, Jeff. I want your thoughts of what you think where Apple's going with this, and what are you Gruber's thoughts?
I don't know.
I really built that up, didn't I?
You did. That was fantastic. Okay.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. And I'll give you the spoiler part first, and then I'll talk about why. Gruber's right. Spot on. Absolutely. He nailed it. Okay. So here's my take on this. I have been feeling like Apple has been stringing us along with their whole AI assistant automation thing for a long time. And when they started showing us the features that they were promising with iOS 18 and but not all of them at launch.
Right.
I was immediately concerned about what we would see and when. And John's hierarchy of demo ability in that piece is great. And he's right. Everything that they demoed to people, to the media in person, we have all of that. Everything else, it's vaporware. And we can look at this pattern that Apple has in this space, and we can see a track record that, as John is pointing out, is eroding their credibility. Look at Siri, for example. Look at S Lady, for example. The S Lady is 13 years old.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like beta still after 13 years. Apple came out with the S Lady product early in this whole market, and they had a lead, and it was cool for what it was at the time, and they squandered it. And we're at the point now where a couple weeks ago, Amazon holds an event where they're showing all the new things for the A Lady, and here's the salt in the wound for Apple. All of these things that Amazon showed that would fit in line with what Apple is trying to do with Apple Intelligence. Amazon showed these features and then said, here's the date they'll be available, here's the devices they will be on, here's how much it costs. Apple still can't tell us how much all of these features that they promised at WWDC, or they can't tell us when those will be available. And now they're saying it's pushed out even farther. The fact that we're getting this announcement now does not surprise me at all. When I read the statement, I'm like, yeah, they could have issued this same statement at WWDC. It was foolish for Apple to show features that, frankly, I don't think existed at WWDC. Not even in an alpha state. It was just, we have these concepts, let's make videos and show what can be done. They misled all of us. And now Apple has to earn back that trust. And I don't see how they can do it with this product line, with the whole AI thing. They have failed, and they have scrambled to try and get a foothold in this space that makes investors and journalists happy. They have lost their focus on this part of their product lineup, and it is going to hurt them and their credibility. It already has. It will continue to do that going forward.
Good insight there, Jeff. Holden, you brought this to my attention. I knew about it, and you suggested it, so I wanted to make sure you got get you in on this.
I was going to say I agree with 100% everything Jeff just said. This is a huge deal. I also wasn't surprised that the features got delayed. That's kind of why I didn't go into the beta, because I'm kind of like, okay, I'm looking for those features, but they weren't there. So I'm like, okay, they're going to get delayed. But I think something Gruber points out that is really important is that Apple doesn't do this. If Apple shows us a feature, it's because it's at least ready enough to be shown to the public. Apple doesn't do this. He made a reference to a concept video from 1987 where they did this, and that was kind of the beginning of their downfall towards bankruptcy. And he kind of said that as like a doom and gloom kind of thing. I don't think that they're 10 years from bankruptcy. Obviously, Apple's in an extremely different position than they were, back then. But it really does kind of show that there is something within the culture that is giving, and that's a very, very bad thing. And I feel like I don't like playing this card because I think it's kind of cheap, but I do think it's very applicable to this. This would have never happened under Steve Jobs. If this was Steve Jobs, we would have gotten a look at just the features that have been released so far. And he also probably would have released a thoughts on AI, article that he wrote kind of saying the industry is not being honest about this technology. A lot of the stuff is being overblown. We're taking our time. This is what we have right now. Right. Look forward to the future. In terms of how they make it back, I think this is how they make it back. Because if they're going to show off iOS 19, this massive overhaul, they need to have people's trust in that.
Right.
They just need to. I think part of the issue here is that in 2020, I don't think they did this nefariously because of COVID, obviously. They had to, is they started doing no more live demos, the demonstrations or live keynotes for WWDC or any event. But instead, they went to the kind of pre-recorded, and that's allowed them to have this fudge factor to kind of get away with this, where they wouldn't have really, it would have been much more obvious last year if this was a live stage demo and we just didn't see anything of app intents or, personal context and that kind of stuff. So I think what they need to do is go back to live shows, at least just for WWDC, the software event, because this really hasn't been a problem for hardware, and show things live. I think that's how they can make this up, at least right now. It's like I think it's not a small thing, but in the grand scheme of the scale of this, I think it's a small thing that they can do that will, help with this. But if Gruber's saying this, it's bad.
It's bad.
Yeah,
it is bad.
Hey, Holden, can I build on what you're just saying?
Yeah.
As long as I'm here and I'm just suddenly taking over the show. Holden,
okay by me.
You're right about what Apple needs to do to help start building back credibility and trust. I think they need to go farther than that, though. I think Tim Cook needs to stand on stage at WWDC and do a mea culpa. And then they need to tell us where they really are. And granted, I know that's a very fine line to walk because you don't want to tip your hand to your competitors, but they need to tell us where they are. They need to show things where they can fit into the part on Gruber's hierarchy of development, and let the journalists, the bloggers, the pundits actually see this stuff working.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And without all of those things happening, it doesn't matter what Apple shows us in this category space at WWDC. I don't believe it's coming.
Yeah,
at all.
Let's
app intents or which any all of it or
all of it. App intents. Everything that they showed us at WWDC last year that's postponed again, or still, if they can't actually show us parts of this working at WWDC this year, I do not believe it's something they even have working at all.
If they talk about this at WWDC and don't have a demo, it's over. It's over. Yeah.
At that point, I will be more than willing, as devices need to be cycled out because they break or whatever in my smart home, to buy things just for the A-Lady platform.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, let's get Chuck and Marty back in here. Chuck, what do you want to add on this? You're muted.
It was probably the most important thing Chuck ever said.
No, I will repeat exactly what I said. I said, take Marty next because you won't like what I have to say. So I'll go last.
Okay, go ahead, Marty.
Boy, that really puts it on me.
It does.
No pressure.
I don't think
not at all.
Any of you have ever dated somebody stupid. Or maybe you were the stupid that somebody dated, because they just don't get smarter right away. And so I think Apple is building the plane while it's flying it. I think it's found out it needs to build it. It always said it was going to be a different plane, and I think they've run into problems doing that. I don't like comparisons of what Apple Intelligence is to what other AI platforms are, because the whole privacy and context thing that's being built into Apple Intelligence and the way questions go out and come back in and how they're filtered that way, this is a much more complicated plane. So I'm patient. I don't want to be an Apple apologist on this, but I'm patient that something will come out. Vision Profiles, we had Daniel Burkholder on. He's on like every other show, and he's more in touch with thinking about development. And he spoke about, he said, I don't, when they said it's going to be delayed, I'm not surprised, because I think what they'll do at WWDC is give the components to the developers to be able to integrate stuff into it. So their focus is going to be on the developers, not on showing how well how smart the S Lady has gotten. Although I agree with you, demo's probably necessary, but they really want the developers to start to build their apps and integrate it into whatever this AI system is going to be. But it's going to be private, it's going to be controlled, and it's going to be user context. So that's a much more complicated than doing a search engine on steroids.
Yeah, and I think that to kind of bridge what you and Jeff were saying, like that kind of moment where Tim Cook comes out on stage and kind of has this like, this is where we are, this is the reality of the situation. I think what you kind of mentioned there about the privacy and the kind of reality of the situation, all that is they have to say these other companies are abusing your data. We are not. We are going to be slower at this, but eventually it'll even out, and you're just going to have to work with us because we're on your side. Trust us. That's a hard message probably to convey at this point, but they have to say something along those lines because they're not going to be able to keep up with the privacy concerns.
I agree with both of you. And Marty, the big thing for me is Apple matching feature for feature things that the A lady is doing, things that Samsung or Microsoft or Google or whoever is doing. It's can they actually show me that they're doing something? And today they cannot. Now, what you said about putting the tools in developers' hands at WWDC, that would be huge. That's Apple saying, yeah, we have this and it's developing, and we're at the point where we need to have developers working to make sure that their products will work with the things that we're bringing to you. And Holden, yes, the security element, I think that's an important message for Apple to convey. A lot of people don't care because they just they can't wrap their head around it, but they still need to get that message out because that's an important selling point for what Apple's doing.
It's also just honesty to the stockholders, you have to be honest with your stockholders. It is illegal to lie to them, and they've already kind of been caught red-handed at this point, blatantly lying. So
yeah.
All right. Let's bring Chuck in here to close it out here. Go ahead.
He's going to make us all upset. He's going to upset everyone.
With Chuck, you're wrong, or
okay. Well, first, Dave, please never let me make that mistake again. And I should never follow Marty because he just, he the dating somebody dumb statement is brilliant. So I got to pick on a couple points that some of you have made, and then add some of my own. But first of all, Gruber really got up on the wrong side of the bed this morning. Wow. And, I think it's safe to say that at WWDC this year, the talk show probably may not feature somebody from Apple. I don't know.
I bet it will, actually.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think
they respect him.
Yeah,
respect his opinion.
It would look bad.
Be bad. Yes.
Yeah, it would really look bad. Jeff, I'm going to pick on you because first of all, as I recall, you were the one who was, you were really unhappy with the A lady for quite some time. And so for you to say, to make a statement like, well, if this happens and that happens, I'm going to go A lady all the way, surprises me a little bit, especially since, yes, Amazon came out and said, yes, we're going to have an enhanced A lady. And this is the date and all these wonderful things. And we still haven't seen it. And I used the example of the Fire phone. It was supposed to be this killer phone and it snuffed.
Well,
It's an understatement.
The Fire phone. Ugh,
You know.
holy forking shitballs.
We talked about that.
But
yeah.
Isn't the date that the new A-Lady features are available for the newer devices coming up in a couple days? They gave us a very specific date.
Oh yeah, but that doesn't mean that the features are going to work. I mean that's kind of
not. But if you're ballsy enough to say it's here, here's the date, and here's the devices it runs on, you're at least confident enough that you have developed some product that you can show.
Yeah, well, that's what they did with the Fire phone.
And it flopped, but at least they had a product.
They had a product. Okay. So I'm kind of with Marty. I can't get real excited over this because Apple has continued to give us every reason to believe that they're they're doing everything they can from a privacy-based focus. And witness what we're seeing in the UK right now and some of the things that are going on. So they're trying everything they can. Now, does that excuse the fact that they've maybe jumped the gun for the first time or one of the first times in their history? And, where they Holden, I can't agree that they were caught red-handed. Did they get overambitious? Did they think they could do something that it turned out to be more? How many companies do that? And I know, Marty, you said you don't want to be an Apple apologist. I don't either. But I think that there's just a bigger picture here. And I think that with all due respect to John, this was a little bit of a rant because he didn't get what he wanted when he wanted it. Now, did Apple promise it? Yes. Did they miss the promise? Yes. Have they had to put a disclaimer up on the website? Yes. Mm-hmm. To my way of thinking,
they had to pull commercials showing features to get you to buy phones? Yes.
Right. Okay, yes, absolutely. Yeah. But to their credit, they've done all that. They've basically said, look, we thought we could do it and we can't. And so right now we're going to pull back on that. And they've been very public about it. They didn't have to wait for Gruber to do his rant. They did all this stuff. And then his rant is in reaction to that. So I feel like Apple is still trying to take the high ground. What will be said at WWDC when Tim Cook hits that stage? I have no idea. We're all speculating. We're all saying this is what they should do. I don't recall any of us running $1 trillion company. So I'm willing to wait and see what he says and then maybe pass a little more judgment. But I still look at this and say, I don't care if it takes 2 years. I don't want a half-baked product. And Siri, you can argue that Siri is a half-baked product, but it's been under a lot of restrictions and a lot of constraints that some of the others haven't. And I mean, just in the last week, how many times have we seen accusations flying about who's training what AIs on what models? And is that training legal, legitimate, ethically correct? Pick any one or two or three of those. We don't know what Apple's doing because Apple is always closed mouth. Yeah. But so if you see my comments as making excuses for Apple, fine. I prefer to see them as factors that need to be considered in the conversation.
Okay. That's fair. I mean, you're wrong, but that's fair. No. Chuck, when you talked about Apple is still taking the high ground, I think you're being a little generous there. I think they're trying to climb back up to the high ground. They slipped off the top. And so in this instance, when they slipped off the top was when they started showing these features first at WWDC that apparently don't exist, and then started using those features in commercials to sell phones, knowing full well these features are not available today. And I mean, to me, that's really when they went, whoop, here we go.
Yeah, that's
And
what I meant by red-handed. Was
yeah,
that specifically?
I had a feeling that's what you meant. So now they pulled the commercial, at least one of the commercials that uses features that don't exist publicly today. And that was good. So that's a step towards getting back to the high ground. They have to earn it back. And that said, they are doing so much better than so many other companies. Seriously, how many companies out there are letting us be misled either by their actions or their inactions into believing they're doing something when in fact they're not, or they're doing something and they're letting us believe they're not.
Yeah. Let's go. You get the final word, Chuck. We're going to wrap up.
Well, I don't know if there's a final word here, Dave. Because Jeff makes some great points, and I like the idea of saying that they're maybe climbing back to the high ground. We can talk about from a business perspective why they made the decision to release those ads. And sure, you can see it's real simple why they wanted to sell phones. Well, of course they wanted to sell phones, but I've personally have a real hard time believing that somebody said we're going to go with this knowing that we can't deliver this in any kind of reasonable time frame. I believe that a business decision was made, and unfortunately the technical part couldn't be followed up with. And so until I hear otherwise, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to recognize that yes, they did slip. They went a little bit out of character, and Marty, I have dated dumb people, and so I'm right there with you.
All right. That's a good way to wrap it up. Right, that comment right there. Let's go ahead and wrap up. What a great discussion. I really appreciate all of you. That was really great. I knew this was going to get very lively, and I appreciate all of you for giving us some great insights on this for this week. So let's go ahead and wrap up. That's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, which is feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Blue Sky and Mastodon at InTouchWithIOS. Support the show. Buy me a coffee at InTouchWithIOS.com/coffee. We'd really appreciate it. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/InTouchWithIOS. We have 2 tiers available to support the show. We'd really appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, subscribe so you're notified when we are live streaming, which is Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/InTouchWithIOS. A little bit of a few lurkers today. Didn't see too many people, but I'm sure they enjoyed the show. But you can be out there watching us live. You can also go to that channel to watch the current and past live streams, as well as listen to past shows. Visit In Touch with iOS magazine on Flipboard, where many of the topics we discuss are flipped into this magazine. The link is in our show notes. You can subscribe to the show in your favorite podcatcher, including Pocket Casts, Overcast, Apple Podcasts, many others. But better yet, go to our website, intouchwithios.com, where the links and all the ways to listen to us are there on their site. I am Dave Ginsburg. You can find me on Blue Sky and Mastodon at DaveG65. Holden Depardo, any place you want to advertise or want anything you want to talk about? I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. I don't have any social medias, so I'm in the real world. That's it.
Probably healthier for it too.
Healthy, very healthy.
Disconnected,
let me mix it up.
Healthier. Yeah.
Let me mix it up here. Jeff Gamet, thanks for coming here just to give us some great insights on this topic at the end there. Where can people find you?
Well, when I'm not busy developing new features for Apple Intelligence, you can.
So it's your fault, Jeff.
Yeah.
Now do you see why I'm so touchy about the whole thing? Yeah. Okay, social medias. I'm Jay Gamet on everything, and I'm, except for LinkedIn. That's where I'm Jeff Gamet, because for whatever reason,
yeah.
I have no idea why. I honestly have no idea why. But anyhow, Mastodon and Pixel Fed and Blue Sky. That's where most of my stuff is going right now. And then for shows, Chuck, well, at least up until tonight, has let me join in on Mac Voices Live. And Dave, thank you for letting me join, even though I'm incredibly late tonight for In Touch with iOS.
That's okay.
British Tech Network, The Big Show, on Thursdays, Mac Show on Fridays. Brian Chaffin and I do The Context Machine, and Patrice Brandamore and I do Retro Rewatch.
Thank you so much, Jeff. We were glad you made it any time it was. Chuck Joyner, thank you for coming in your last minute. We appreciate you, but we always are welcome here anytime. Thanks for being here. Where can people find you?
MacVoices.com is where you'll find. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice after yelling at Jeff. That's where you'll find everything. A lot. Yeah, well, yeah, there is that. That's where you'll find everything I'm doing. Right now we've wrapped up our CES interviews. We're sort of playing catch up with a bunch of other things, but and starting to gear up, thinking about NAB. So come on over and see what all's going on there. And on the socials, pretty much any social you can find me is at Chuck Joyner. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. And Marty Jencius, thank you for being here. So glad you were able to make it. Where can people find you?
I'm the dumb person my wife dated. Please don't tell her I said that. You can find me at Jencius, Jencius, at Blue Sky, also at Mastodon. Tuesday nights with Chuck. Thursday nights here with Dave on In Touch with iOS. And podcasts that I do with Eric Bolden, Vision Profiles, about the Vision Pro headset. That's Monday nights at 9 p.m. And then a bunch of other podcasts you can find at the website, thepodtalk.net.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I hope everybody enjoyed the show this week. We had a lot of great discussions. We'll do it again next week. But until next time, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we'll talk again soon.